My mother-in-law, she's a nightmare. She's lying to the family, saying she's so proud of her son because he's so successful, he's got this big house, good-looking wife, aka me, but what she fails to even mention is that I'm the breadwinner. Her little precious baby boy is living off of me. And this is going to come to a war because I decide to tell her this in front of the family.
I'm 33 and female, and I've lived with my only husband, Andrew, for 10 years. My mother-in-law, Michelle, came to live with us some years back, and I'm the primary breadwinner. And before anybody comments about why my husband is not earning for the family, I'm fine with it. I had a small dry cleaning business a few years ago, but now it's expanded because of the work I put into it. If my husband's been working, I might have done nothing to grow what was then a side hustle for the family. Besides, anytime I remember when Andrew was let go of work, I feel bad for him. He'd gone for a few job interviews and after a couple rejections had given up. I asked for him to join in on my business sometimes in the past, but he said that he did not want to interfere with my job. I did not ask after that time. A part of me was bummed by his answer, but I tried to understand. We had moved into our new, much larger house, and that's when Michelle came to live with us. I've never really liked Michelle, to be honest, and that was after discovering that she would never like me, no matter what I did. Then there was her character as well, but that wasn't important. The very first day she moved in at dinner, Michelle gushed about the house and praised my husband, and to my surprise, he took all the credit. I didn't say anything so as not to embarrass him in front of Michelle, but I mentioned it when we were in our bedroom. Andrew had assured me that he was grateful for everything that I was doing, and that he did what he did to save face in front of his mom. He also mentioned that Michelle would see the truth for herself at some point since he was always home. His point was valid, and I dropped the toxic topic and just went to bed. So, Michelle did not care that I was earning all the money and was still an impolite, rude person to me. She would watch me come home from work looking absolutely exhausted and ask me why there's no dinner and why her laundry wasn't done. I'd have to postpone finalizing my work, which I usually do after dinner, just to please her and avoid any problems in my house. At some point, I got fed up and asked Andrew to talk to his mother. When it was the two of us alone, there was no problems. Andrew could thankfully handle himself in the kitchen, and then there was takeout. But his mom was not a fan of any of that, and when Andrew came back to report to me, I was disappointed in him because he had let his mom influence his final decisions. He asked me to be patient and just handle the cooking and a few other chores till his mother left, and that was the beginning of our more serious marital problems. Andrew would literally turn a deaf ear whenever I complained about his mom to him. If it was not making excuses, it was me telling that I was either impatient or intolerant. He kept on reminding me that she was an old woman and that she actually needed extra care. I suggested taking her to a care facility, and that resulted in another gigantic argument. When I tried talking to my mother-in-law myself, she told me that she knew many women who ran successful businesses and could still take care of the family and home. I almost forgot the insults, but I won't put them out here because, well, what's the point? They stung and did their job. And everything I seemed to make things even worse, everything I did. I ended up employing another secretary so that I would have more time for myself and my family. Now, none of these prompted me to post my problems, and whenever a problem arose, I did my best to find a solution that would make everybody, including myself, I guess, happy? I learned to ignore my mother-in-law whenever she tried to get on my nerves, and simply, when Andrew complained on his mother's behalf, I did the same thing. I'd planned to have a discussion with my husband at some point because, well, I don't know, even his behavior was worsening, and I didn't like it. But before that could happen, we got invited to dinner by Andrew's brother, Caleb. He was in the States and had heard that my mother-in-law was with us and decided to kill two birds with one stone. My mother-in-law had suggested having dinner in the house instead, and I wasn't entirely happy with the decision, but I sucked it up and took Friday off to get things ready. The dinner started well, but I eventually lost my appetite when my mother-in-law attributed the family's success to Andrew. Andrew did not say anything, only laughed at his mother and continued to praise him while Caleb hit him on the shoulder with obvious pride on his face. Should I have done something, I questioned. I was tempted to ask my mother-in-law what she meant, but that would mean a confrontation and a possible humiliation for my husband, none of which I was in the mood for. I kept quiet, picking at my food and drowning out the conversation at the dinner table. Talking to Andrew later that night did not help either, and I don't know why I thought it would. I started by expressing my dissatisfaction with the way that he confronted his mother, telling him that she was taking advantage of the fact that he did not get her to see that she was in the wrong. I also talked about what happened at dinner, asking why he did not speak up or at least say that I had a part to play in, quote, his success. Surprisingly, Andrew did not apologize or say that he would do anything about it. Instead, my husband told me I was being dramatic again and left our bedroom when I tried talking again. I was so shocked that I could not move or think for a few seconds, and when I decided to go and talk to him, I stopped myself and guessing that it would not end well. What is happening to my husband? My family? I've sincerely tried everything, and at the same time, I feel like I should have done something from the very beginning. Andrew was not this way a few years ago, and, well, back then I would have done anything for him, but now that's no longer the case. I'm so frustrated because I don't know what else to do. Update number 1. I was wrong about my husband, guys. I thought the dinner that we had with Caleb was the first and only time that he had taken all the credit from all my hard work outside the family. But after a short meeting and a greet with the family friend who asked about Andrew and how well his business was, not mine, was doing, I realized that my husband was long gone. Who else thought that my business was all my husband's doing? I got annoyed after the encounter and could not concentrate, so I ended up going home instead. And I went straight to my mother-in-law, and since Andrew was out, she must have known what he was doing. And I even suspected that she had a part to play in the entire fray. My mother-in-law simply laughed when I confronted her about this. Yes, she laughed. In my face. Which further angered me. What exactly was funny about what I'd said? My mother-in-law went ahead to inform me that if not for my husband, I would not have had my business in the first place, and then proceeded to laugh again, just waving me away. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to give her a hard slap across the face. What the hell was she on about? And what had Andrew told her? I waited for Andrew, and I did not leave the living room, wanting to ask him to explain his mother's words as soon as he stepped into the house. I did just that. As soon as I heard the door swing open, I marched up to him and asked him what his mother meant by him being the reason my business even started in the first place. I thought of waiting it out and letting Andrew rest first, but my curiosity needed to be satisfied as soon as possible. Andrew, of course, expressed his annoyance at my sudden interrogation, and when I asked again, he asked what was wrong with what I've told him. Now, about a decade ago, when Andrew was still earning from the both of us, I was not entirely serious about my business. It was just a means of supporting the family and getting a few things I wanted to get for myself. Andrew was responsible for all the bills, and I did chores and maintained the house, and at some point I wanted to do more, and so I took some money from Andrew. He didn't even know what it was for then, but I did not tell him because I was scared of failing after revealing everything. I got some machines and employed somebody to help me out with everything, and I was happy I did all that, because Andrew was eventually let go of and officially unemployed for about 14 months after getting the money from him. I told him everything later on, and he felt the same way I did about it. Relieved and thankful that I've taken the step. And now he's taking credit for everything, all because he lent me some money to add to my savings. I don't even know when I started crying because I could not believe what was happening. I worked 6 days a week, did almost all the chores in the house, took care of my mother-in-law, and barely had time to go out with my friends or engage in a relaxing activity. Only for that to all be tossed away like it was nothing. Was Andrew always like this, or was it Michelle who was influencing my husband? Andrew informed me that my mother-in-law was planning a small get-together for the family and that I should invite a few people from my side of the family and organize the entire thing. He said that he had to suggest that to his mother, claiming that he could influence her more than I thought he could, and I almost laughed at his face and declined. But I held myself back, simply nodding and understanding as if Andrew... Michelle had you wrapped around her wrinkled fingers and you didn't even know about it. Thankfully, I would not be alone during this particular family function. I'd have somebody to be with me no matter what happened. By the way, I have not forgotten about my husband and mother-in-law's actions. Not yet. I'll deal with them later. They both depend on my money for everything, so if something should suddenly happen to the inflow of resources, they definitely would not be happy about it. And that's just one of the plans I've managed to come up with. But first and foremost, this gathering of my mother-in-law planning should go well and be a matter of the past. I like Caleb, and I'm sure he knows about the gathering, so embarrassing his mother is out of it. I did plan to do something drastic at the gathering though, but when I remembered Caleb, let's just say that the plan is in the gutter. But at the same time, it would teach both Andrew and Michelle a lesson, so should I go ahead with it or just deal with them at a later time? Let me know. Update number 2. Michelle ended up messing up my plans, and I ended up dealing with her in the way that I simply did not want to. I ignored Caleb and what he thought, of my actions, and I don't even regret a single thing. I'd planned the gathering well enough. I got some people to assist with the food and decor, and the event was set to take place 8 days after Andrew had mentioned it to me. My older cousin was the only one around, so I invited her and her husband to come over, and my brother and younger sister simply could not have made it, even though they wanted to, so I didn't bother inviting them. Just having Judith, my cousin by the way, was enough for me. Caleb had attended the gathering along with some of Andrew's cousins and some older people I vaguely remember from the wedding with Andrew. If I had known the gathering was going to be this way, I'd have invited a lot more people. All Michelle told me was to make preparations for no less than 15 people, and I thought she wanted to be overly prepared. I asked how many people she invited over, and she told me it was not a major concern. As long as I did what she told me, I should have asked again. Anyways, the number of people did not matter. I was ecstatic when Judith showed up and stayed by her side for most of the event. I later realized that Michelle had organized the gathering to celebrate being 60 years of age. I overheard some guests, the older ones, talking about it and shrugging it off. That was until somebody complimented the house and decor, and Michelle said it was all Andrew. The older ones talked about how lucky Andrew was, and I could not take it anymore. My mood changed again, and Judith noticed. When I eventually opened up to her, she got angry and then said that Andrew was indeed lucky to have me as his wife. A few heads turned in our direction, and I tried to shush Judith, but she asked why I kept letting my husband get all the praise for my hard work. When Judith was done talking, the house was quiet. I'm not sure how many people heard what she had said, but it was enough to annoy Michelle. Michelle sprang on my cousin, telling her that she knew nothing about what happened in the family, and she made sure to repeat her words, saying that Andrew was the sole earner in the family. Judith called her out on her lie, and Michelle told her that she would rather be homeless than take money from me or let Andrew do the same. This time, Judith's husband tried to pacify her, but Michelle shut him up. And that's when I've had enough. She was free to give undue praise to Andrew, but she was not going to insult my guest and expect me to just sit there remaining quiet. I told Michelle to stop with the drama, and I equally told her to apologize to my guest. She laughed like she usually did, but when she saw that I was not going to back down, I noticed a little bit of worry in her eyes. Michelle then did the best thing next, insulting me. After she told me that I was ungrateful and insincere and would be nothing without Andrew, I shut her down. And without caring what anybody around me thought, I told her that she was the worst mother I've ever come across in my life. I'd rather not say everything I told Michelle, but guys, I did the job. Michelle kept quiet and the murmurs began. That's when Andrew came to his mother's rescue and insulted me. I still can't believe he did that in front of so many people. And the smug look on Michelle's face, I can't even, you know what? Typing this out was enough to irritate me, so I will keep this short. The party ended then and there, and in case that wasn't obvious, Judith left after Andrew's outburst, but not before telling me to make him regret his words. And then that's when I told Andrew and Michelle that I did not want Michelle living in the house anymore. I promised to kick her out, even if I had to call the police to get her out. Andrew walked up to me and told me that his mother was not going anywhere and that she would stay with him in the house as long as that he was concerned. As he spoke, I could only watch in disappointment, wondering where my husband had gone because the man speaking to me was not the one that I've gotten married to. I did not reply to him immediately. Instead, I apologized to all the guests for the chaos and asked them to leave. Andrew, objected to that idea, and it almost caused another heated argument. But the guests began to leave on their own will, much to my relief. After getting sympathetic looks and a few jeers thrown at me, the house was finally empty, except for Andrew, Michelle, and myself. Michelle told me that I've ruined her event, but I ignored her. She was not going to be my problem in the near future after all. Andrew was angry. And when I told him again that Michelle could not stay with us anymore, he told me that he would go with her if she was not going to live in the house. All he cared about was his mother. And that's okay with me. I agreed and told him to take Michelle and get the heck out of the house. When Andrew remained standing at the same spot like he did not hear a word I just said, I repeated myself, reminding him that I could call the police and have him forcefully taken out since, it is my home. I went into the guest room and simply cried myself to sleep. I woke up this morning and found out that the house was empty. A few of Andrew's things were missing from the closet and Michelle's room was almost emptied out. The sudden emptiness surprised me, and I expected to be sad, but instead I felt mostly numb. I don't regret kicking them out, and I'll be going over to Judith's later today. Andrew had taken things too far, and I finally had my heart set on getting a divorce. I only planned to get rid of Michelle, but after everything that's happened, a divorce would just be logical. Talking sense into Andrew seems pointless at this point. Besides, I don't even want to do that anymore. At the same time, I need a second opinion. And Judith was always just somebody I could talk to. What do you guys think? I'll definitely update again soon, but it'll be nice to hear other people's thoughts as well. Update number 3. I'd almost forgotten what it was like to live alone. It's quite peaceful, but at some point you'll miss having somebody to talk to. Andrew and my mother-in-law lasted a bit longer than I thought they would. I'd expected them to return after a day, but they held out for 5 days, and I got to hear words I thought that I never would. Michelle begged me to forgive her, saying that she had realized her mistakes, that she had never should have maltreated me in such a manner, and there was an apology from my husband as well. Andrew had told me that he should not have let his mother push me to the side and demean me, and when I asked how they had fared on their own, they had not given me an answer. I had a feeling that they only wanted to get back on my good side because of whatever they'd experienced outside of the house, but the reactions had confirmed it. I reminded Michelle that, she had said she and Andrew did not need me. I even went as far as quoting her words. I told her that she would rather be homeless than take any money from me. When I asked her why she's now begging me instead of remaining on the streets, since, that's what she prefers, another round of apologies followed. It was pitiable. And to be honest, I did not know Michelle had it in her to appear so pathetic. She was always arrogant, demeaning whoever tried to defy her. At the same time, I was not totally heartless, so I invited them both and warmed up some leftovers, and as my mother-in-law and husband ate, I watched them and realized that I did not need them for my happiness. Yes, I loved my husband, his mother, not so much. But he did not feel the same way about me. He could not care about what I was going through and let his mother mess with me as much as she wanted. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's how a person who's in love or at least cares for the other person would act. So, I got divorce papers from my room and gave them to Andrew. Just as he was about to finish his meal, and I could have sworn that he almost choked on his food. He ended up drinking some water and blinking at the papers, then asking what I'd given him. After shooting him a don't bullcrap me look, he told me that I was acting in haste. Michelle got wind of what was going down between us, I think, and, well, because she herself stated to give me advice, and I'm sure I had a dumbfounded look on my face. I could not have hidden it even if I wanted to. After letting them say whatever they wanted to, I did not listen so much, and after all, I told them that my decision was final, and Judith had told me that, while she did not want it to happen, a divorce was what's best. She also reasoned that Andrew would turn back to his usual self if some effort was put in, but that's as long as Michelle was around, trouble, and would obviously follow. I did not totally agree with her. Now, I'm certain that Andrew was more than happy being idle, leaving me to pay all the bills, and his mother only helped me see that. And to prove my point further, Andrew gets mad when I decide to ignore him. He told me that he was not going to leave the house this time, and that nothing was going to make him sign any divorce papers. I told him not to make things hard for himself and his mother, and Michelle told me to be quiet. She insulted me, how stupid of her, and told me that the house belonged to Andrew, and in my head I was like, you should not have let them into this house in the first place. It was so silly to think that they felt even a small amount of remorse. Well, long story short, I called the police. The funny part about this was that Andrew thought I was messing with him until he heard the police sirens. I explained everything to them, and the police took my husband and my mother-in-law away. I've made a mental note to file a restraining order early the next day as well, because the Lord knows what they'll do when they're released from jail. As much as I hate that my marital life ended this way, I could not take the abuse anymore. I'm a bit worried about what'll become of Andrew, but now for at least jail would be enough shelter for him. As for Michelle, maybe she would talk some sense into Andrew, since he only listens to her. I don't understand how I was able to put up with living with an idle husband for years without complaints. I even justified his actions, and that's the only regret I have at the moment. Oh well, it's over now. I don't know what life has in store for me anymore, but what I do know is that nothing will make me let some undeserving human being walk all over me again. Edit. Hey guys, quick edit to throw in here. It's been 4 months since I filed a restraining order. Anyways, I saw Andrew again. He was shoveling some sand at a construction site when I drove by, and he's leaner than before, and maybe it's because he's working at a rough site, but he was unkempt as well. I haven't heard from or about Michelle, and I could care less. Nothing much has happened to me. I try to keep myself occupied whenever I feel down, but I do know that I have not felt this much peace in years, and I'm going to not give it up that easy.
Well, it looks like Andrew finally had to get a job of his own and do some manual labor, and it made him, well, looks like he lost a lot of weight and he's being unkempt, so he's probably not used to that lifestyle. But the question I want to ask you guys, do you think OP handled that properly and did everything that she needed to do? The comment section on this one was a little split. Some were saying how she didn't handle it properly, but others were saying she should have cut them off so long ago, the mother-in-law of the story and also Andrew, her ex. Let me know your thoughts and about the restraining order at the end of the story. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day. If you want more daily videos, there's 3 ways to support the channel, and they're all super fast and super simple. Hit that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel with those bell notification icons enabled. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.